Hello and welcome everyone. It is me, NA45 for Scopes, here with Aaron McInnes for the 5th episode. And today we are going to be talking about a lot of interesting stuff. How are you doing, Aaron?
Doing good. Been on a Yu-Gi-Oh kick. I'm trying to get back into Riftbound now that we've seen a lot of Unleashed stuff. So we're gonna get into a little bit of how it's all going, but let's just say the game is changing a lot, and I'm curious to see your thoughts on this.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been also a bit of a Yu-Gi-Oh kick myself, with unrelated to Riftbound, of course, but we did get some cards I've been waiting quite a long time. A bit
Literally
exciting.
years. Yes.
Over 2 years, actually.
Yeah.
But anyways, back to Riftbound. So I'll go over our itinerary. So our itinerary is going to be, we're going to talk about the health of the game, which is, it's a pretty big can of worms in itself, and that's going to go nicely into a Banlist discussion. We are going to go over the results of the Chinese Nationals, and then we are going to go over just a few of the Unleash cards that have been revealed. We're not going to go over them all because they've kind of dumped them all pretty
Yeah, it
pretty
was like
quickly.
a
Yeah,
1 week. Like here's the entire set. It wasn't
yeah,
very much.
it's a
Like
lot.
it's more of a trickle effect in some other situations. This one was not that.
Absolutely. I feel like we have to know at least half the set, maybe more.
If I had to guess more at this point, but I couldn't say for certain.
Anyways, we'll get right into it. And I don't have like a cool tweet or something to pull up for this one because this has just kind of been everyone's opinion, and not, I'm sure there are people who disagree. But for the most part, this has been most of the discourse on Twitter. This has been most of the discourse I've seen within a lot of the discords I'm in and stuff. And the consensus is that the game is very unbalanced right now. And set one, people thought was unbalanced. I think it was actually in a pretty good state myself. And I actually liked the dynamic, and we had the meta kind of shift quite a few times actually, where new things were discovered. I mean, the whole Annie thing when it came to the West was like the really big one, is, oh, Annie's really good actually, and maybe China just missed it. And that's just not happened in set two at all. It was very quickly figured out what the strongest deck was, and along with that, the strongest color. Do you have any initial thoughts on this before I do my own little ranting?
I think we've discussed it a little bit in the forum, so people
Yeah.
have my initial thoughts. Yeah, I think the color balancing is currently not very good, and you can look at a lot of different card games. Like if you look at Hearthstone and I assume Magic, because it's similar things where the parity between all the colors and the classes is never always the same. But I think it's not super common for this quickly into the game's life cycle to have this big of a discrepancy between the top and the bottom. So I'll let you hop into it off from there.
Yeah, and I think it's even more than just the balance. I think that it is the play patterns that these cards themselves are creating are really unfun. And we can dive into that a little bit later when we talk about the ban list, because I think that's pretty pertinent to the ban list discussion.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not just that these cards are too strong, it's that they're also kind of unfun to play against, and they take away a lot of what I really liked about set one gameplay. I thought set one gameplay, outside of some of the bottom decks just feeling like absolute garbage, it felt really good. Like, I had a lot of fun with the Yasuo deck, for instance, which admittedly is a purple deck, but that kind of goes into how set two is kind
Purple
of come
felt.
on.
I mean,
Yeah,
there was no gold. Rebuke wasn't an oppressive card. I think in set one, all the colors were relatively good. Like Kaiser was obviously a very strong leader, but I don't think the card quality outside of Falling Star and Watcher was anything abnormal. I think Falling Star, Watcher, Aurora, but Aurora is only as good as the cards play off of it. So I think for the set one's life cycle, it was reasonable. But yeah, please continue.
yeah, and all it felt like all of the decks had their own play patterns as well, even within the colors. They, like Kaisa, the Spell Slinger, Annie aggro that always has interaction or saves its units. You had like the Hook Darius, which was like throw at him infinite units, and then you had the Victor deck that had a few different play ways you could play it, but it did have like it was the token deck. It could spit out these really wide and aggressive boards that backed up by like stratagems and stuff. You had Yasuo, which was really aggro 2-drops where you play like 12 to 14 2-drops and say I'm going double points on my turn, and you're going to be behind. It Ari with the holding, Yi with like the really efficient units. All these decks had really good identities, and I think part of the issue I have with the balancing of the game currently is that they've kind of destroyed that. And that does have to do with how the purple color, and I'm just going to go and say it, is the purple color does everything, and it does everything better than the colors that are supposed to specialize in it. And it also has its things that only it does. So not only do you have it doing everything, it has things that only it can do. Like it is the only deck that has bounce effects, at least right now. Maybe in Unleash that change, but purple is the only color that has these bounce effects, especially at actions. And in a game like this, where you're paying resources and there's a cap on the resources, so you cannot get to a point where you can just, all right, it doesn't matter if you bounce thing. I have enough mana, like in Magic, I have 20 lands. Just play it again plus the rest of my hand on the next turn. Well, if you only have a max of 12 runes, if you're playing something over 6 runes, that is your entire turn. So bouncing it, giving a color a bounce effect, I think a bounce effect is just inherently kind of unhealthy in this style of game generally. And giving by itself is maybe fine. Like you said in set 1, it wasn't a problem. You didn't have things like gold tokens. Card draw was less. You're going down in hand size, you're going down in rune economy. But set 2 just blew that all out of the water with the introduction of gold tokens and the introduction of so much draw power, like insane amounts of draw power, but only in one color. Oh, that's silly.
Yeah, I'm not sure where this relates to it, but I think if you look at where the game is right now, obviously Draven's impressive. Like, let's say like we ban Called Shot and whatever. Like, I think the big issue that a lot of people, myself included, have is I was kind of sold this dream of like Riftbound being like a kind of slow, like interactive game, and based off of what I'm looking at in set 2 and set 3, it doesn't feel like that. It feels like it feels kind of like Yu-Gi-Oh in terms of just like how combo heavy and how like interactive I think is the wrong word, just like how oppressive some of these strategies are. And that's fine. Like I come from Yu-Gi-Oh, obviously, right? So like I don't think this is like inherently a negative thing, but it is a drastic shift from what I initially thought this game was going to look like. So if there's like I probably just have to have a paradigm shift and understand this game is like nuts. Like my hope was like, okay, Miracle Draven's like an outlier. They ban Cold Shot. They may like hit something else like Stack Deck or Purple Edge or whatever. And now from there, okay, like the game is more like a chill spot, whatever. But once we start looking at set 3 cards, if we're gonna do towards the end, like those cards that are revealed don't really fix anything, and if anything, they increase the power level even more. Like this is ignoring the infinite loops that can come out in the future. Like there's just also it feels like there's like a really big disparity with like some of the ideas. So when you look at some decks that have like the side quest like XP, like there's I haven't read all the cards. There's definitely more that can come out. But when I think of it like, oh, we're gonna side quest XP, I'm like, how are you gonna side quest XP whenever you're playing it's a miracle deck? Like it just seems like that's like okay, we're gonna play this in like a 2v2 game where the game is a little slow or whatever. Like if you're playing 1 versus 1 competitive Riftbound, that just feels like it's a completely not viable strategy. Like we'll see if I'm wrong. Same for something like Ivern. Like I think that looks really neat, but like you're gonna tell me that we're gonna get 4 different units on a board and start doing things like that. I'm like, nah, dog. Like you're just gonna get run over by bushwhack and your entire board's gonna get wiped. So I I liked the idea of Riftbound, and I think if I change like just change the way that I looked at it, set 1 is not what Riftbound is. It's actually set 2 and set 3, where like there's a lot more draw power. It's a lot more combo heavy. Okay, it's a game I can get behind because again, I come from Yu-Gi-Oh. This is like nothing abnormal to me, but this is very different from how I initially understood the game.
Absolutely. It is not. It's actually just night and day from how we were testing the game in set 1. We had a lot of long games, a lot of played 2 actions per turn. You have to really efficiently think, okay, I'm going to use if I play a unit on this turn, will I have mana? Like building your base without pushing up aggressively. And that's something that I feel like is a little bit under talked about, is how quickly they like prepped acceleration. Is that these decks just contest the battlefield every single turn. It very rarely feels like you're actually taking a turn off. And it feels like if you do take a turn off, you just lose the game.
Yeah.
I cards like Bushwhack, maybe at face value, it's like okay, but I don't think it's okay when you can spit out 5 units. If it's like Bushwhack plus
Yeah.
1 unit, sure, you just gave it. It allows an expensive accelerate, but that's not what it's being used. It's like okay, I play discounted unit, I play discounted unit, I play discounted unit, and now you're just dealing with these giant swings. I,
Yeah, like we read from front and set one and like solid card, whatever, bushwhack. No one read that card. We're like, oh, this card's oppressive. But the play patterns, like you described, like of jam a bunch of units down in a single turn, and I won't lie, like the complexity of the deck is as high. Like the good players are continuing to win, so I don't think the game is unskilled. I think it's just very uninteractive and not super fun to play against. And this has happened in Yu-Gi-Oh multiple times. So again, like this is I think just something I need to get used to because, like I said, I see names like Colin Kaiser winning everything. We see I'm sorry, what's his name? The guy that played Edro. Like he just top 8 back-to-back
Alan,
events and won with Edro. Yes, Alan ZQ. Sorry. We see Randy continues to do well, and people like Prismat. So those names and those people that are good, like they continue to do well. So there's a lot of skill involved in the format. But it's just a very different game than someone who like I play competitively, but like I definitely like in and out sometimes. So like I come back and I'm like, oh, so Detonate Draven is just like the best deck by far, and nothing really comes close. And I look at set three and I'm like, yeah, this isn't gonna get shifted. So I'm very curious to see how Riot handles the banlist situation and just like the future of the game because the one thing that I see discussed on Twitter, I can't identify where, but it's something that's pretty common amongst all card games is the local scene is what's like the most important, and like that will die before your big events, just because like big events are just like very accessible. It's like kind of a convention, whatever. But if like the locals and the skirmishes start dying out, that's when the game's gonna like be in a bad place. And we already had complaints about Draven just like as a normal mid range deck being an issue. I can't imagine people are gonna enjoy showing up to their local skirmishes and just getting detonate Draven over and over. Like these are just gameplay patterns that, like you described, are very uninteractive, very not fun. And I think concerning for longevity, if your goal is like, all right, let's get like new people in the game, and then like they just sit down and they just get like annihilated. Like there's nothing you can do playing a normal deck into Detonator or Miracle Draven. Like you're just gonna get smoked.
and I think one of the big issues for me is how this gameplay seems so disconnected from the rules of the game because you read the rules of the game, you expect it to be
Yeah.
somewhat slow, you expect it to be like a board game where you're making these methodical decisions, you are conserving your resources, like you have to be very deliberate with what you do, and then you sit down and you play versus these miracle decks. It's just absolutely not that. Well, there is. Don't get me wrong;
Yeah.
those things still exist within that. But if I'm sitting down as someone who's only read the rulebook, that is not what I'm expecting
Yeah.
in the
Like holding
slightest.
is not a thing in this game.
Yeah,
Like you would think that holding is like a relevant aspect of the game. It is like a rare thing, or it's like, oh yes, I have 37 might on this board. Like it's not like in set one where Yee's like, I'm gonna put a guy up and we're gonna like play some early games out. And like I'm not gonna say that play pattern was perfect, but like holding is just like obsolete from the game. It feels like we'll see if set three can kind of remedy that with a ban list, but in set two, like it is like okay, I am like soft committing, or my entire board is on my field, and like that's just what the game is turning into.
yep. And I can say I did talk to one of our LGS owners recently. He said that their locals have like 5 people use the cap every single time. So whether this is just set to fatigue and people are just excited for the next thing, because that does happen. Locals will take
Yes, for sure.
taper off the longer into a set that you are. I mean, also, who wants to go the locals if people are gonna bring a deck that is so much better than yours? You do not have a chance if they know what they're doing.
Yeah, so to give that a little bit more context, like so set two was quote unquote released in the West in whatever like January, but we've been testing it for like months because there were no events. There's only like the one Western event, which was Houston. So a lot of us have been playing online for months. So like this set two has been whatever in the West for like we'll say 4 or 5 months at this point. So it's definitely been longer than like most games have like expansions at this point. So that's definitely a part of it. Um, but like it is concerning that there's another Riftbound event in what 3 weeks in the West, like 2 weeks if you're going to Europe, and like it falling off. Like when an event is on the horizon is not a great sign. Like, well, I don't anticipate the events won't sell out, but it wouldn't surprise me if like it was less of an instantaneous thing and it took a little bit longer moving forward. Like I'm very curious to see if that's something that changes.
Absolutely. And so this does kind of move into our next point, which is talking about the ban list. How do you fix this if it is to be fixed? That is that is a caveat on there. Maybe this is what Riot intends the game to be, which feels a bit
Mhm.
disingenuous. But if it is the way or if it isn't the way they intended the game to be, one, they're not testing their game very well, and I've can maybe hand wave that, and maybe they've fixed that internally.
Yeah.
But how do you fix this if you are trying to go back to more of set one gameplay? What are your first thoughts? What do you need to do? And is it just hit a few cards? Is it hit a lot of cards? Is it limits? Is it a Yu-Gi-Oh style ban list? Is it put, what do you call it? Where, what are they called? Where you can only have play like one in a set of cards?
Restricted or limited or whatever.
Well, like you can only play Thunder Song and exclusive.
Oh, I
Yeah.
don't even know that. Yeah, like
Okay.
like yeah, you can't have two of the same card in the deck.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not like a super common TCG thing.
Okay.
So, like I've definitely seen it before, but yeah, I don't have like you have to pick like one or the other. So I'm gonna say if you want like really good ideas on this, like I would say look on Twitter. I'm trying to remember names. I know George D wrote an article. There were a couple like people that like did like in depth like you need to do like hit like 15 to 20 cards and like limit and semi limit. Those guys put a lot more thought into this than I did, and I want to give them like their respect. So I would say look on this on Twitter if you want like really in-depth thoughts. My initial thoughts was so if we're gonna leave gold as is, like you mentioned, I think rebuke and fight or flight, like one of those cards needs to get hit, potentially just both. Um, Obviously the number one culprit is cold shot. We talked about like between us, like if stack deck needs to go too. Like I think initially stack deck was like kind of a cool concept where like okay, it's like a nocturne trigger and you can like do some things with that, but like it doesn't feel like that's the orientation of how the game is going to play, especially with gold. Like it just feels very different. Um, I think call shot like 100% without a doubt has to get banned. I think purple Ezreal getting limited to one, I think is like not that bad of an adjustment. But yeah, like I think if you like truly want to like adjust how this game plays, like the card I've seen people talk about like banning Reaver's Row, and I think that like steps like that where like you ban Flight or Flight, you ban Reaver's Row, you have to ban Rebuke as well, which is just like a really big fundamental adjustment to how the game would play. So I'm really curious if that's like what design like that's like their intent. Um, because like remember like the card that you were super hyped about in this game format was Treasure Hunter, right? That card got like that card's obsolete within like a month, which is insane to think about. Like we're like, ah yes, you can like ride the wind and you can Reaver's Row. This card will never die on Reaver's Row, and you get to 12 men and like nah, you just still lose the game. Like it doesn't matter. Like the Draven leader, like I really think it should probably like if your goal is to play like set one Riftbound, Draven should not exist. Like as a leader, or you should route it to tap. However you want to do it to change the showdown mechanic, but like that leader is overtuned. There's just like so many small things, but they all kind of are around the color purple and how powerful that deck is. I and then the other one is Aurora, which is, I think you said just like gameplay patterns that aren't super fun. It's just like the issue with that deck is it's like you don't play the game and then like you just like have control of everything. Um, and maybe that card should have an effect that says like tap three at the end of your turn or something. But like when you look at some of the cards that are coming out in set three, like we'll talk about, I have one pulled up, Elder Drake, and Baron. Like there's some really stupid cards in Aurora. The way that we've described it in Yu-Gi-Oh is like it limits future card design. Like you have to always build with that card in mind, and it is going to be very oppressive. With cards like Elder Drake, which we'll discuss later. So I think that's a card that probably, if your goal is to play like a normal game of Riftbound, where like like it's strategic and it's back and forth, that card does not lead to that gameplay pattern. So in summary, we'll say like Aurora, we'll say Call Shot for sure. Saying limit Ezreal, and then maybe like ban Rebuke, Fight or Flight, and then from there like we can maybe start playing the game normally. Like that's probably at least like a baseline of okay, we can start looking at Riftbound as like a set one game, at least closer to what it was before.
Yeah, I think I agree with almost everything you said. With everything you said, I think I would go even a little bit further maybe. And this sounds ridiculous, but maybe banning seals, because I think seals are a
I
really
thought about that as well.
big
I agree with you.
problem. Like purple
Yep.
seals are so much better than every other color seals. It's absurd. Because the whole concept behind purple, at least what seems to be, from me looking in, not as an actual, I do my own card. I made my own card game. I've done a little bit of card design. I am not a professional, but it is something I've spent a fair amount of time doing. And the
Yep.
whole concept of purple as a color to me, when I look at it right now, is that it does a little bit of everything. It's not supposed to do things necessarily better, but it does it at a higher cost. They have these like all these power costs built into all these purple cards except for Fight or Flight for some reason. And if normally you would have to actually recycle your runes, you're playing a color that is really aggressively paying power costs. And you might be stuck at like 4 power the entire game. And you actually see this with the Aurelia leader that actually
Yeah.
doesn't play the seals. And they don't even play called shot, right? Like without called shot, they still end up paying a ton of power. And to offset that, you have options. Like you can play the treasure hunter, like we talked about. These cards that might not have as much initial value on board, but they build value. And when you have cards like seals backed up with card draw, that just doesn't work because they generate
Yeah.
infinite value, like insane amounts of value over the
Power focus,
game.
not mana. Like mana focused
Yeah.
card draw is reasonable. Like we see Kaisa, they're playing a normal control deck. They're spending their entire turn to play Progress Day. Like their cheat of mana, quote unquote, is Premonition, which is a card that I tried playing for a little bit, and I think it like does its job, but it's nowhere near on the power level of Call Shot. Like there's just nothing you can do to even try to begin to match that.
Yeah. So to me, I think I agree with you. I'd say ban call, and this makes me sad because I think there are decks that play within these colors at a more reasonable level.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
I think like you got to ban called shot. I personally think you limit Ezreal so that you can play him as your chosen champion, and it doesn't because Ezreal is going to be killed regardless. I'm just going to say that right now. Ezreal is going to be killed by called shot getting banned. So that in itself is like enough of a killer for that style of deck. So I also think you should. Oh, so ban called shot, ban stack deck. I think you should ban on top of all this. So this is just an absurd amount of bans, but I think you need to ban almost all the cost reduction cards. Like you need to ban Nocturne, should not be able to play for free. I think you ban Rasa, and I think you ban Battering Ram. And Noxus Hopeful was okay in set one. I it's still a really powerful card. It has a lower ceiling than the rest of them, which is the
I think when
reason.
you remove, like,
Mhm,
let's say you ban Cold Shot and Stack Deck, I
mhm.
think that fixes a bit. And additionally, if you ban like Purple Seals, which I think is a good shout, like if you ban those 3 cards, the odds of you paying, like one being able to load your grave for Rasa, two being able to play like more than 2 cards a turn for Battering Ram, like if you're playing a 3 mana for 5 on turn whatever 5 or 6 because you played a 2 drop and whatever 1 or 2 cost spell like a cleave, okay, cool. Like now we're being more aggressive, and that's fine.
Yep.
But like as of right now, when Battering Ram is a guaranteed 1 for 5, and Nocturne is being checked every turn, like I think there's ways to balance it, and it's the units like we saw in set one weren't really the problem. It was once like the whole miracle archetype kind of came to fruition. So if you ban, like you said, seals, stack deck, and cold shot, like I think that's where those units start to become a little bit more like manageable. Like you dropping a six might guy on turn 7 or 8 when you like minefield milled your deck. And I can't remember all the mill cards, but like when you're playing like a mill deck, that's totally fine. But like whenever you're drawing your entire deck and have agency over how it gets in the graveyard, then I think that's where it gets to be a little scary. And I will say, Ezreal deck dying is kind of sad. Like that deck is really intricate. It's really interesting to watch. A lot of like the really good games of Riftbound that I've watched in set two involve that deck. So I want to like, unfortunately that sucks, but I think you can never tune to like the second, third, or even like the fifth or sixth best deck, like you said, where Aurelia, obviously like somewhere in like the top 5 best decks. Good deck. Probably plays the purple cards at like a relatively fair manner, but like you just can't ever balance towards it. You always have to balance towards the top end, and right now Draven, specifically Detonate Draven, is just like by far and away the best deck.
And I do agree with you as well on the Aurora ban, and I think it does suck for that archetype because I think right now a lot of the high cost cards are actually balanced around Aurora. Like you almost never want to play these cards from hand. They're just too expensive. And in a game where you do have a max mana, these cards are almost unplayable. Because if you're
Yeah,
playing,
like Volibear.
yeah, the 12 cost volley, like you spend your entire turn and it's not just spending your entire turn, it's spending your turn and saying you get to play and do literally whatever you want on your turn. I have
Yeah,
nothing. I have 0 runes up. Might have a hidden, but then at that point I've already contested the battlefields with a ramp deck, which seems a bit
yeah, it's like a
unlikely.
closer, which like sure, but again, like like you said, I think a lot of the card design was about that. Like Dead Bloom Predator, I think totally normal 8 cost card. I would play that card for 8 in set one, comfortably. But like we didn't see Volibear get played until like we had more control over how our deck got oriented. So Yeah, unfortunately, I think Aurora just like very scary for design space purposes, and you are way more experienced on this than I am, so I'm gonna let you have all of the knowledge on that. So this is just like from a player's perspective, like this a card that generally creates uninteractive games. That's like the big complaint I have with the card.
Yeah, and I think that banning it is gonna make these top end decks, at least some of them, pretty unplayable. Like I don't, there's no ramp MF anymore. There's no ramp Sivir. There's no. I actually think Volley survives something like this, and we've
Yeah,
talked about this a little
I
bit.
like the deck. I think it's
Um,
solid.
I think Volley is actually a pretty solid deck even without Aurora, and we talked about this, but there's some matchups you might not even want in your deck. Like, are you really playing Aurora in the Detonate Draven? Probably
Definitely
not.
not.
Yeah, right. Like that sounds miserable. So I think that it will feel really bad for the game for a few sets if they do this really big ban list, because now you're playing this really kneecapped purple color, or you're playing these ramp style decks and they just don't really work without Aurora. And that's on Riot to like come set. I don't know what they're on designing now. Set 10 probably. Set 8. Like they designed pretty far in advance from what I've heard.
Yeah, I think
And
set four up until set four was like prepped on release, if I remember correctly.
yeah, so it'll be a while before like air quote fair replacements come, whatever that means, but something to help ramp. And there are some things that we've seen kind of teased as like early cards that look like they'll be part of a future archetype. Like there's Herald of Dragons, I think it is, which is pretty unplayable right now, but could be playable in the future. If I remember correctly, it says it's like a 4/3 that's just dragons in your hand cost 2 less. So something like
Oh yeah,
that,
yeah, yeah.
like future archetype cards that are a lot more fair. Like it's not doing anything right now, right? So once it gets some more cards, maybe it'll be playable. Um, anyway, so that was little ban list talk. We'll have to see when we get it. This is like a huge long shot. I'm hoping we get one before Lille. I am going to Lille. I think that's not going to happen. I think they are going to do it with like the release of set 3. They're gonna do it. It'll be
Yeah,
like we're
that's how One
getting,
Piece does it. It's like on set releases,
because we're
which I
getting
think
the
is like
yep.
I think it's like not a bad way to do it. Like that way you have like okay, like set release, we got to like watch some of these cards play out. Okay, like this is how we want the game to shape out. Like I think it makes some sense. It also gives players like an understanding of okay, this is when the band's going to be. Because in Yu-Gi-Oh, that's something that we deal with where like there's no like communication on term. It's just kind of like a feeling of like, all right, it's been like 3 or 4 months and we kind of need one. So
Yeah,
I definitely would prefer like okay, on set release day, like week before, like set release is now gonna get the ban list. So I think I like it, but right now, I know there's a lot of discussion about like it would feel really bad to show up to Lille and Atlanta with like the same event structure as what was it, Vegas? Like that would be a pretty miserable experience. Now that the format's more developed, there's more. I mean, way more Draven. Like it's gonna be a lot of time, a lot of detonate Draven mirrors, and it's gonna be a I think a pretty rough event for a lot of people.
for sure. I guess we'll have to see. We're getting the rules update on the 30th, so about 8 days from now. When this was recorded, we'll see if they do. They could just drop the ban list. I don't think they will. I think they said they don't know when they're going to, but
Yeah.
we'll
If I
see.
remember correctly, they said they don't want to influence events like with less than 2 weeks notice. Like, so we didn't expect it at all leading up into the Chinese nationals, but there's at least over 2 weeks now. But if we don't hear something by the end of this week, which would be somewhere between like the 23rd and the 27th, then I wouldn't expect it until set three, or like whatever set three pre-release, something like that.
I personally would not be opposed to it. I love playing like air quote fresh formats. I think it makes deck building very interesting. But I can see why people would not want that with all the prep they've done leading up to the big regionals. We don't have that many of them. So deal coming up pretty quick, month away. Yep. So
Yeah.
banlist discussion. Let's take a quick look now at the Chinese nationals. Actually, just concluded today. Unfortunately, there's not. Oops. Quick. I've got. Oh. Aha. There we go. Okay. But you can see have the day one representation here, 2,000 people, so pretty big event. This is much bigger than their usual events. I believe they're and you can see by the numbers, but really what we expected, a large number of Draven. The more the format develops, better Draven gets as people figure out the lists. It looks like the follow-up few decks are pretty similar to what we've seen before. Aurelia and Kaisa. Kaisa continuing to be, I guess it's kind of raising a little bit in percent, right? Like it's pretty close to Aurelia here.
As someone that played Kaisa in Vegas, because I was like somewhat metal hunting, somewhat hoping to like farm some of like the Dravens. Um, I don't understand. Also, other reason, like I think you have like a pretty decent Ezreal matchup, especially in people that are not named Allen. Like obviously he's like very comfortable in the matchup,
For
but
sure, for
I think a majority of Ezreal players would struggle into the Kaisa matchup. 10% I think is like an insanely high rate. Like this deck is nowhere near the power level of the like. If you look at it in terms of power level, like Draven should be like whatever 50-60% just in terms of quality, and if, obviously taking into account for metal hunting. But yeah, like 218 Kaisas I think is like an insanely high number for how good the deck is. I don't think it's actually anywhere near the power level of the best deck by a decent margin.
sure. It looks like most of the rest of the field is pretty similar, and you constantly kind of
And he's
see
still so low, which is insane. And he was like bottom. Where's Jinx at? Is Jinx even lower?
right
Wow.
here.
Does Time just like not want to play Miracle decks?
I don't know because
Like
I've
that
watched.
deck is like legit. Like there's a guy in Austin that like has won the best of Jinx twice. Like he plays the deck at a level that like is better than we'll say like the fourth or fifth best deck in the format. Like there's it just seems absurd to me that no one in China wants to enter with a Miracle Jinx deck and just like win a metal card and do that. Like or like more people aren't trying to do that. I guess is the better way to phrase it.
I
Like
mean,
you're a lot of
yeah,
AD in that.
I like it a lot, and I watched him. So I actually got the cast the CCS in which he made top eight. I think it was top eight with. I
Mhm.
think he won his round of 16 with the Miracle Jinx deck, and I actually think it's way better than I thought. Specifically, because the Mega Death Rocket is
Yeah.
actually a pretty good card in context of the Miracle deck, where you're finding it every game. You're able to double conquer pretty consistently, so you can use the card two times in a turn. You don't have the mana for three, but
Yeah.
it helps with sniping backline, which is a problem sometimes in
Mhm.
some of the miracles where like against the Ezreal deck, the Ezreal
Yeah.
just sits in the backline and then builds so much advantage. Well, you can just snipe it and then you get it back and then
Yeah.
you can keep doing it. So I think it actually does have some merit. Definitely not this should not be this far down.
100%. Like, this is just disrespectful. Like even
Yeah.
like aggro Annie, I think is lower than what this is. Like the number of people playing Kai'Sa should just be lower, and I think
Yeah.
these reputable decks should just be a little bit higher. Just like as a brief example, I think
Yeah.
like the Jax deck is neat. Like I think there's plenty of decks in here that like Victor being as high as it is, like reasonable. I think I said the Jax deck is solid. But yeah, I mean obviously a lot of people are battle hunting, so it's like not like a hard critique. It's just like an observation that I
Yeah.
feel like if people are battle hunting or like trying to do well, even like I think any combination of red purple is just better than
For
a
sure.
lot of these other examples out there.
So going on to the day two statistics, the conversion rate of Draven is just absurd.
But this it was 18% day one, right? So just like 2.5x or like 2 point whatever.
Like,
Yeah, just
you, it is
yeah.
so clear that Draven is the best deck, and the fact that there are only 12 decks in day two as well.
That's an insane drop off. Like there were
Yeah,
some. It was I think on average like 18 to 20,
yeah,
and that's just a pretty crazy. Obviously, Natural's higher quality of players, I would assume. So
hmm
that definitely affects some things. But yeah, that's still a pretty drastic adjustment from what we've seen in the past. Considering there's
and
more players as well, it's like what was this one's like an 1,000 person event, right? Or 2,000, and the average is
2000.
512.
Yep,
2,000, yeah, and it's usually 512. So it's kind of surprising to see even less people sneak in. I think Draven just as impressive as we all were
have the top cut,
lauding early on.
8 purple decks. We were really surprised. Draven.
Yeah, no, it's no
I'm.
surprise.
I don't know the Sivir list. I actually was not able to watch the event, so I don't know if it was a miracle or if it was the Aurora Sivir. But yep,
See if I can skim it real
eight,
quick. But yeah,
8 purple decks. Not too surprising.
yeah, exactly.
Event was in fact won by Aurelia. I believe this was deck list. It is an Aurelia list. Looks pretty straightforward. 3 Stellacorn, 3 Sneaky. Sneaky seems to be the norm at this point. Just 3 of them.
Yeah, I think you have to make sure you uh Like get those early points against the Draven deck.
Yep. We ride the wind. Like to see it's powerful. That card steals a lot of games. Yeah. Forward, pretty straightforward. Good on Aurelia for somehow taking an event. I still think the deck is awful, but my bias.
I think it's not bad, but I definitely think there is a power level discrepancy. This
Okay, well,
yeah.
did you find it?
I'm skimming through real quick so if I can find the silver list. It doesn't look like they put it on stream for some reason. But it looks like most of the Draven that I'm seeing is mid range. I think there was 1 or 2 miracles. I think the EDG Rico guy was playing it, and then yeah, but it seems like a majority of these lists are mid range still, which is just
China doesn't like the
yeah, like
miracle decks
the
for
finals are
some
mid range
reason,
versus Aurelia.
which is insane to me. Because if you look at the West, I'm not going to say all the good players, because that's not true, but feels like a majority of the good players are playing Miracle of some kind.
Yeah,
You just get to, I mean, it just creates so many non-games, and it really does, like you say, despite being so much more powerful, it also just has the most room for skill expression, or close to it. Maybe not the most. Ezreal's pretty high up there. A lot of
yeah,
skill expression as well. So not only do you get to play the deck that just has the highest baseline level, you also get to skill
yeah,
check people.
exactly. That's the thing is like there is skill expression, but it also is very like their critique of the original Draven deck was that it was inconsistent sometimes. Like whatever 1 in 5, 1 in 6 games, you just like kind of struggle to play. But with the detonate like update, like it feels like that's not really a concern anymore.
Well, that was the Chinese nationals. Now for the last section, and I know this is a shorter episode today, but are going to look at some of the Unleashed cards. We're not going to look at all of them. We're going to look at the leaders and maybe some other important, relevant cards. But yeah, I mean, they dumped everything on us. So there's a lot to look at. But we're going to take a look at the leaders real quick and signatures, at least the ones that have been revealed. So first, where is it? So first up here is the Jin leader, red blue, competing with Kaisa in the colors. Is when you play a spell, if you spend 4 or more, you can banish it, and then if there are 4 spells banished with me, and I'm gonna assume this means by specifically its effect, because there are cards that say banish the spell, like Time Warp.
Yeah, like time warp or whatever.
But put each in the trash, channel 4 runes, and draw 1. So my initial take on this is it's just a worse Kaisa kind of spell slinger style deck. What do you think?
Play spells spent 4 or more, you may banish it. So it feels like it's trying to be. It looks like it's kind of like the Lux deck, kind of, where it's more like expensive spells. And that is kind of not really what Kaisa has been historically. It's like Falling Star and Piercing Lights, and there's obviously Singularity, but like it's trying to combo like those like low cost spells with cards like Walker and Smokescreen or whatever. So I think this deck will kind of function a bit differently. It'll look more closer to Lux, where you're playing like some more of those expensive spells. But I don't think this leader does not read as like broken. This is like a set one, like okay, this is the set one red blue leader. Like okay, like you fit right in. Like you get like to cheat 4 runes in a turn, but like it takes, we'll say, 6 or 7 turns into a game to build up that leader's ability. So I don't think it's doing anything unfair. Like I think it's just pretty solid. Like whatever, fine. Like I think the chosen champions for it are okay, and but again, like when the baseline is like Draven and just like other very oppressive strategies, like this reads very tame comparatively.
Glancing at the champions because they have been revealed. There's a 4/4. So this is actually the first. It feels like maybe it is the first blue unit that's kind of a cheat unit, just like the Nocturne or
Yeah,
the Battering Ram or whatever. It's if you've played a spell of 4 or more, then you can play me for a blue.
yeah. I mean, think this definitely goes along with the strategy. Seems solid. The red one seems very interesting. When I move, add 1 power, 1 rune, which I think can get very scary in like a ride the wind deck. I'm not sure how good this card will be in Jin, but if you stick this in any deck that plays ride the wind and in red, like I think a lot of silly things can come up. So we'll kind of see where this card finds its home, but I don't think it's going to be in the Jin leader.
Yeah, and this card has already spawned multiple infinites. So yeah, about that card design thing. I will. Okay, there's just something I wanted to call out here, and we'll see this again with the Rengar unit. Is it feels like the baseline power for cards just increased tremendously already within just the first three sets.
Mhm.
Like this is a 4/4 for one. So generally 4/4s, that's like the vanilla test kind of that the 4/4 plus like maybe one keyword, and then the power means you give it an ability. Generally, that's what it feels like with set one. And a little bit of set two, though set two started to creep on this already. But we have a 4/4 for one power that has two keywords and a broken ability. Like this is
Yeah.
an insanely powerful ability. If you have a
Yeah,
way
you think
to,
so? Like this is a chosen
yeah,
champion. Those are generally a little bit higher in power level.
yeah,
But compare this to the green unit. I forget its name. The Navori Scout, I think, where it's just like a
mm-hmm,
4 for no power, and it just has one key for it, and it's deflect. So this is effectively saying one power is worth one additional keyword plus one good ability, which is I think a bit of a power creep. Like, so just brief side tangent. I've been playing Hearthstone again lately, and I like some of like the core cards of that set have been like changed to like keep up with modern times. And there are cards that used to cost two and that now cost one. But when you read some of like the like you can really like see power creep visibly when they're like, oh yes, this card that was like a +2/2 is now like a +2/4 for the same cost. Like that's how much like the cost of a card kind of like reflects like the general power level of the game. And like you said, like I think the jump from 1 to 2 to now 3 is way like this Hearthstone jump took a decade, and it was whatever like we'll say 7 or 8 years for that to actually take into account like those types of changes. And now we're seeing those jumps very very quickly. Which again, if this is what they want the game to look like, just a much faster, much more combo heavy game, then that's something that we'll just need to adjust to. Because me and you are still under the impression that set one was the intent of Riftbound.
yeah.
So we'll kind of see what their goal is. But as of right now, this is a drastic power adjustment between the two sets or like three
Yep.
sets now.
And I think, like you said, I'm not totally opposed to it. It's just not what I came in expecting.
Yeah.
It's not the impression that the game gave me when I first started playing.
Hmm.
It well, we can other leaders here. So the Rengar one. Oh,
Let's look at Rengar. There's some fun stuff with that guy.
something I did want to say before I moved on is it actually is really interesting to me that if you when you look at almost all these, they as a general rule feel a little bit weaker than set two leaders. So I'm kind of curious why we had Draven and Aurelia, which are just like absurd leaders for what they do,
Hmm.
and then they like stepped back a little bit. I think there are some strong set three leaders, but those two just seem
Yeah,
way better than any of these. So
I think yeah, I think there's like I think it's kind of like a lot of the set two leaders, like we saw like Fiora, like there's a lot of just like normal like equipment focused stuff. And now it's kind of like we'll look at a leader like LeBlanc or Rengar with like the chosen spell, like they're just like really specific aspects or like specific champion or legends that are way 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 overtuned. So Rengar, I think reads pretty normal, but like this is a deck that is really carried by its signature spell.
yeah,
Uh,
this and just to clarify on this, because I think a lot of people a lot of players when they read this were like, "Oh, that's so bad, right?" Like you play a unit and then, but this works with accelerate, this works with hidden, this works. It you don't have to buff the unit that you played, right? So you can develop something,
yeah, you
buff it
play
the
any
next
yeah, play
turn.
any unit. Yeah,
It's not once per turn. So this is a lot better than it reads. Just being very clear here. Um,
yeah.
and
And yeah, we didn't go over Signature Spell of Jin because I think it was like less
yeah,
impactful. But the Signature Spell for Rengar is called Thrill to Hunt. It's a reaction speed, which this is another thing that I think this game is going. So we saw cards like Shen, and the set two Rengar, which is like an aggressive Shen, where like you could play it during a combat where you're the aggressor, Shen when you're the defender. And now it's set three. It seems like I don't remember what the keyword is, but they're like kind of removing aggressor and defender, but just like reaction speed. Okay, you can play this unit here if you're like if you have any number of units here. And this one kind of ignores all of it, where it's like banish a friendly unit and play it to any battlefield ignoring its cost. And this is another card that can cheat with a card like Bring Here Thundersong, which is a card that when it's played on your turn is kind of okay, but like when you do some other things, like because this card's reaction speed, like you can trigger to like some like beginning action steps, right, and just like
yep.
effectively turn off their entire turn. Like I think Brain here is a card that again, like I think is okay, kind of tentatively, and then like when you look at this type of stuff, this is where the game gets like just unfun. Like, and I think it's really hard to look at that potential combination of cards and be like, yeah, this is fun and okay for the game.
This, I think, this very easily could have been an action spell and been very good still. This, why is it reaction?
Yeah,
It seems insane to me.
yeah.
So, anyways, yeah, I think the leader is solid. I think the signature is broken, beyond broken. Reaction is absurd. And then looking at the actual units, I think they're decent. I don't think they're insane. I think they're decent.
Yeah, I think the
You
red
know,
one's pretty solid.
yeah.
It
So
has
this
all the
one is
keywords,
just kind of
and then ambush
whatever.
was the keyword that I think that they're using for this now, which is on the orange one. But yeah, accelerate assaults, deflect ganking. So you have casual 4 keywords for a 4/1, which is I would say a bit overtuned. Like if this card came out in set 1, I think every red deck would just play it for fun because it's just a good card that has 4 keywords.
I think that you could have made this like a 4/3, and I would complain about it a tiny bit less. I would still think it's very strong. Like
Well,
this,
just with the power level of the game, like I read this card and I'm like, this card is good, but like I don't know if it's gonna be like a generic card. Like this is like I probably play this as like my Rengar chosen leader, but again, like you read like the set 2 Rengar, which is like a 3 for 1, has less keyword, or it's a 3/1 with like I think 3, and then it has like the same assault +2, and then it has like the not ganking, but it has like whatever the reaction speed ability. But
yeah.
this one has like 2 additional keywords for only 1 more, and it also still gains the power, the might cost. So this is just like if you want to like compare sets 1 to 2 to 3, like there's a substantial gap, like we were saying.
Pike is pretty cool. Unfortunately, he is the Draven colors, which can be a little bit scary. I hope that Miracle is still not around because he actually has an ability that would work pretty good with Miracle in bouncing self-bouncing units. But he does read pay 1 to bounce a unit from a battlefield to its owner's hand and then play a gold token. Thankfully, he does rest himself. Thankfully, there's no condition to unrest him. But it's
Yeah.
still a very powerful ability. You do have to pay resources for it. You do have to be on a battlefield. So it feels like a combo card. Thoughts? I mean, seems good, but
Yeah, like so this is like a mechanic that I was trying to find space for in set 2. The only way that this works is whatever that bad battlefield is that I wanted to use, like Temple or something, where it's like you conquer with this, like
yeah,
you pay 1 and like you bounce it into hand and you play a Sand Soldier. Um, that was like I think bouncing cards in a game like this, especially when there's like really good cheap units. So not there's not like a lot of them, but the ones that there are like Fizz, very good card. Especially when we have cheap cards like Stack Deck and Call Shot where you just like get to gain card economy. If those cards are not in the game, this effect I think gets a bit worse. But when there's really strong unplayed effects like that, then I think this is definitely like and if like theoretically, let's say there's like a 2 drop that just says like on play draw a card. Like this is a card that you get to like conquer with, avoid future combats with. Like this is just another card that contributes to the thing that I said earlier about oh yes, like holding's not really a thing anymore. Like all these cards are just like avoiding the holding aspect of combat. And I think this is like another contributor to that.
yep. Glancing at the champions real quick, we don't have the signature. But again, we have a 3/3 with two keywords and an ability and an ability. So this one is once per turn. So cool that there's a once per turn, I guess. When a unit dies while I'm at a battlefield, you get a gold token. So cool that there's a once per turn. This card has a lot of keywords.
Yeah.
Seems pretty decent. I mean, this will probably be played on emo, being that it is a
Probably yeah.
hidden. It has a decent ability. Then you have 3/2 text, a 3/2, a hidden ganking. So also interesting. This one has accelerate with a different word on it, or without the energy cost. Curious.
This is even better. What the hell?
Yeah. So 3 plus
And it
1.
doesn't even have a ult. It just says like you gain +2. Like
Yes.
so obviously like it doesn't change as much, but like theoretically your opponent starts a combat with like right to win or whatever, then
Yeah.
like you still get that +2. So it just like a lot of these like assault like all of this just seems like it's getting power crept very very quickly.
Very powerful. I feel like this one, the red one, will be chosen. Assault or Accelerate from the champion zone is very, very powerful.
And then yeah, I was listening to some other content creators, the Challenger PCG guys, so shout out them if you haven't.
Mm-hmm.
But like they looked at like the Lilia, and then when you compare Lilia's ability to like sprite call, we'll see what like the card pool for this leader comes
Mm-hmm.
out. But like when you like compare a 4 for a 3 sprite unit that has temporary, and obviously you get one less for each friendly unit with temporary. So like let's say you even get this down to like a 2, even a 1, like we'll see if like I think there's like that LeBlanc card that like removes temporary. So there's ways to kind of cheat around this, but just like when you look at the power level of this card compared to what else is out in the game right now, it just feels
Yeah.
very, very different, to put it mildly.
Next leader, Vi. When this is pretty straightforward. When you conquer, you assign 3 or more. You can cost me the ready unit. This is so funny compared to Aurelia, where it's like it's like you have to commit so you
Yeah.
can conquer with excess generally, and then it also just
Yeah.
it's like ready a unit and there's no restand. So like I was saying, it feels like they took things and then they're like,
This is the worst red yellow looter by far. Like Darius was way better than this. And
oh,
how's that one?
Darius is incredible, yeah.
Yeah.
Champion, I mean, this is very straightforward. It's just another pump this card. I see this as like a side grade to the other one because recycling cards from your discard can be pretty good in certain decks. Like the Aurora deck, like for instance, the Volley Aurora deck uses it just to get Aurora targets out of your discard and back into your deck.
Yeah.
You can use this the Draven Miracle deck. I think I saw a few of them play this with Ride the Wind. Or sorry, the set 2-1. It was set 2, right? Or was it set 1? Set 1. It was set 1. So, I mean, not a bad card. Very interesting though either. And there's Lilia, like you said here. So, like you said, play a 3-might sprite unit. So it actually can't play the LeBlanc unit, can it? Or is the LeBlanc unit blue? I thought it was yellow.
Oh, I don't remember what colors. I know one of them is.
Okay.
Uh, the
I don't
blue
remember.
one is the one that says no temporary. I think.
Okay,
So
there you go.
this
You can.
does the work. Yeah, it's fine. Yeah.
Yep. I mean, unit leaders that give constant value are good, but this is pretty expensive, so it is kind of. Then you
Yeah,
do
like
have.
for this deck to function, I think you would need like gears that generate temporary cards every turn. So we'll see if that becomes a part of it. Um,
True.
but yeah, that would be like the only way that I could really see this deck working. Like even with blue's card draw, which is like we'll say modest, like I think you would struggle to justify the expense of this later power.
And this one, the champion is so it's so funny when you compare the colors of the units because this is a green unit and this is so much worse than anything we've read so far in like red and purple. Because when you play a token, you get a +1. Your tokens have tank. I mean, not bad if you're playing a token spam deck, but this is a
It's a
very
5
high
for 4,
cost.
dude. We've read 4/4s that were better than this.
Yeah, yeah, pretty crazy, right? I will say,
So this deck has to just be like a token spam deck that hits a lot, which I will say the token like all the card like most of the token cards currently are in yellow. So I'm not sure how much support this deck will have. Like this could theoretically have been like the blue yellow leader or like a green yellow leader. Like it just seems rather strange to put this identity. Like it feels like they're moving away from colors kind of having that identity. Like yellow's it like kind of like the buff color with like tokens, and this kind of feels like we're already kind of adjusting that identity of the colors.
well, hopefully we get more archetypal support for her. It really hasn't been anything revealed that made me go, "Wow, that's Lilia."
Yeah.
But obviously, her signature is very powerful. Counterspells are powerful. This is probably the most powerful counterspell. This is better than Riposte now because Riposte does
Yeah.
require you to control a unit, and the might buff well is good. I'm not like being a floodgate is better.
No, this is better.
Yeah, like very very powerful card. Will definitely change play patterns when you're playing against that deck. All right, next one, Master Yi. This one is kind of crazy that they did another Master Yi, and you actually talked about the XP mechanic a little bit before. Personally, it feels pretty gimmicky, and I have my doubts that unless they print like broken XP cards, this seems really bad. Like it's slow. You have to play cards that are in colors that are bad already. Green, orange are personally two of the worst colors, and now you are being forced to play units that have some of their power budget in a hunt keyword that is like does nothing until you've gotten a certain amount. So, I mean, do you disagree? Please disagree.
No, I think I was just thinking about like the
Yeah,
color comment that you made. I think yeah, I think probably towards the bottom half. I was thinking like so purple's first by far, red's probably second. It's like red or blue, I think, and then yeah, I think maybe red green are like third, fourth, and then like orange is probably fifth, yellow is sixth. Like orange is like 100% just carried by Aurora, um, and
hunt
then yellow
first.
doesn't really have any like redeemable qualities in
Yeah,
the current game. So that's all I was like. That's like why you saw that. Like yellow is like hold a week and stuff, but like that's not like a selling point for a color on average.
new signature as well. And so, just a note, if anybody does not know, you can only play 3 signatures in your deck, even if if your leader has multiple signatures. So you get to choose these or Highlander. Pretty sure you're always playing these. Highlander sucks, but this
Yes.
friendly unit deals might split at battlefield, and for each unit that kills, gain an XP. This is, I mean, very good, but like another card that feels like it really is trying to hold. But it is. I think the card will
Yeah.
be pretty decent. Yeah, this is a big, hey, don't hold against me card. Um,
Yeah, it's like a cheaper Stormbringer kind of. Like
yeah,
obviously like not to the same extent, but it has like a similar
yeah.
gameplay.
We 2 new units, and you can use the old units as well. But a hunt 2, so 4/4 with hunt 2, so vanilla on play. Then you do have the hunt 2 and 6. It's deflecting. It's so funny to me when you see this because like it is a 4/4 vanilla until it conquers, and then it has given you +2, and then you compare that to like again. I'm gonna stop making the comparison because, but it's just
That
this.
I've been telling my friends it's like the comparison is a thief of joy. So we have to look at,
Yeah,
but I do agree. Like when you look at just like the card quality of orange versus purple, like even if we ignore all of set two, like this is or like we saw like red, like with the gin, like there just is a very big difference in terms of like what you expect a 4 drop to do and like what you expect a 4/1 to do. Like it's just
yeah.
not the same. Like it is just very fundamentally different.
Then obviously new one that people got a little bit hyped over. I don't think this card is very good, to be honest. I think this card is actually big bait. Feels like a casual tabletop game, like a 2v2 or something, where you're actually getting this because 16 XP is egregious unless there is something that we have not seen yet, maybe in the rules or whatever. But
I mean,
16,
so 11 is where it becomes a 6 for 12.
yeah,
And yeah, it really just depends on how good the XP mechanic is. I think it is going. I think it's gonna be very difficult for the XP mechanic to be balanced. I think this is something that either you gain way too quickly and it's just like pretty broken, or it's just not. But I think in most situations the XP system will be casual. I think it's very difficult for this to just be like inconsistent winning competitive game plans. Like it
yeah.
just, I think, very difficult to balance.
I did realize we missed the Vi signature, but this is a very boring signature if you ask me. It's just is BF sword, except draws a card when you if you did excess damage. Not even like conquer and you draw. You have conquer with conditions to draw.
Yeah.
We have Vex, which might be the worst leader in the game, if you ask me. Probably not because it's
Yeah,
purple.
we'll see. But yeah, I color alone I think carries it. I think the Vex units are like solid. So
Yeah. Did they? Is there a second one yet? You don't know which one.
no, I think they only have the set two
Yeah.
one out actually. Or yes, or
But,
set one set two. Which that one's fine. Like we'll see what the units look like, but just this color combination is historically been solid. So I'm not super concerned, but like it can't be worse than like this Vi that we just read. I think it's really difficult. That card's a vanilla as far as I'm concerned.
the Ivern leader is when you. So this one is really cool, and this is the first sort of mechanic we've had like this. It places a battlefield. Awesome. That cool mechanic gives its tribe a +1. So this is pretty much just a tribal leader, which in the current state of the game would be quite bad. Maybe with a Banlist things will push it up, but I can't imagine playing a deck based around tribal stuff is really good unless insanely overtuned. You have
I think the biggest thing is just like getting that many units. Like, so tribal is different. Like, if you're playing like the Dragon Volitor deck, like that deck has some legs because it's only one. When you have to have 4 separate tribes to get an effect, that's where at that point I'm like, okay, this is probably like you have to like first of all draw them. Obviously, Ivern can like cheat out. I think one, maybe even 2 of them. Like you have to like draw the correct combination. You have to not get removed like on some of this guy. So I think it's very unlikely for this to be competitively viable. I think it's good, and like maybe if the game was like in the set one like speed, this may have been okay. But like I just think based off of even like I said, even if there's like a massive ban list, I would be very surprised if like a quad tribal deck that like has these kind of mechanics is gonna be like that good.
if this was set one, I actually would like this because green yellow is kind of a cool combination, and this effectively is reading like the Master Yi leader. Anything you hold gets +1. Is kind of a it is kind of a cool thing if this was set one, but it's not.
Yeah.
Then the chosen champion is pretty much green Ari, except with more conditions. Very expensive too for a chosen champion. I feel like generally the chosen champion success are the cheaper ones. And there is the other one, which is a tutor, which we've seen in the Ornn leader that never gets played. Can't imagine this one get played either. It's insanely overcosted. Look at this, 5-1 for 4, and it might draw 1 card. Like,
Yeah.
we'll have to see when the signature comes out. Probably gonna be Daisy, I guess. Right, just a few more here. We can speed through them. So there is Diana. Diana is the same colors as Ezreal, so you're competing in the Ezreal space. Says you get an energy in showdowns, which is kind of cool. I mean, extra energy is always good. It does say I want to play combat tricks, so more combat focused than Ezreal, who tends to just avoid combat entirely until the end of the game. One of a very, very high quality signature spell. Get to pull in an enemy unit and then give it a reduction. So I think this is a good signature. Action speed as well.
I like Diana, so this is cool to see. Like, it's also the one thing I will give Riot credit for is like all of the flavor is like generally really comparable to like League of Legends lore, which I think is really neat. Like, it's very accurate to what you would kind of expect these champions to look like and play like. I think it's just like the game and rules of Riftbound that is kind of it's just very different than
Yeah.
what we initially expected.
So this one, 3/3. When a showdown begins, you can predict and then draw it if it's a decent. If anything, just because it's a 3-drop, you can drop this going second. And I actually
Yeah,
like I like
on curve free. Like, yeah,
yeah.
guaranteed plays like which is good, and again doesn't cost power, which is
Yep.
just above average for what we have currently.
And
And the
draw a
purple one
card
I
too.
think is above average too. This purple card's really good.
Oh yeah, this card is crazy. It's ambush. This one actually is understated for once. An understated card here. So 4/1 for 3. When you play a spell, give +2. So this is literally Aurelia except more power, but less base.
Yeah,
Not a bad card.
and less conditions. It doesn't have to be chosen. You can be playing like fight or flight on their guy and boost it. So
Diana, I think will be pretty good. Energy is always very good. LeBlanc, I think this is the coolest of the new leaders to me. Is it is one of the ones that does something like totally unique, and I feel like its play pattern is going to be something we don't have yet, which is he essentially creates a copy of a unit when it conquers or holds by discarding, and it gains all the abilities. And this feels not very future proof to me. Maybe it'll be fine.
yeah,
I mean, a discard is a high cost. Especially
Mm.
these colors do have draw options, so there are things to do. But doubling abilities is always a very scary thing.
Yeah, and from my understanding, so battle cries don't trigger
Correct.
on temporary, but death knells do.
Yes.
So there's some really potentially gross things that you can be doing with LeBlanc. Like, what was it? There's like the Karthus unit, which can like double trigger death knells, and there's probably some really silly stuff. And again, like if there's no substantial ban list, then you can't. But like this is, I definitely think when you read it, you're like, all right, there's some stuff here which like is really overpowered or like potential to be overpowered. Like I don't read this and I'm like, okay, like I understand like that is guaranteed to be broken, but like this mechanic I think can be broken, and that is like definitely something to be watchful of.
I mean, one of the things I heard from someone just browsing Twitter was if you have like a Karthus in the base, you have a couple of like you have maybe the bird and sentry in your discard, and you play a mixologist.
Mm-hmm.
You double the mixologist, and that mixologist turns into what was it? It floats into, so that mixologist becomes four units because it copies
Yeah.
itself, and then each of the ones has its own float. So you just get an
Mm-hmm.
insane amount of value out of it, which it requires some setup. So maybe
Yeah.
we'll see.
Yeah, but this will be like the Death Knell deck, and I think that's interesting. Like
Hmm.
I don't like it's like a slower deck. Like there's ways to play around it with like
Hmm.
removal, and you can kind of like try to avoid it. Like this is
Yep.
like in the fair, like the potential fair LeBlanc decks. Like I think this is cool. I'm very curious to see if it becomes a not fair LeBlanc deck and how that looks. Like that's the scary thing.
Signature is choose a unit. It is becomes a ready reflection, so you just do the same thing as your leader, and it has temporary. I think the fact that it's ready makes this significantly better because you can now copy your opponent's big units and just shove them against each
The
other.
leader's also ready, by the way.
Yes, yes. Which
Yeah.
the other thing I forgot about this is I saw some talk about this being a really dumb aggro deck, but if you play like the ganking battlefield,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
you
you can just like swing, move up, swing over. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. It's just 2 4 6 8 is what I heard the deck called. Fin's deck. So,
yeah,
and then the champion I think is actually pretty good. It's a 4/4, no power cost, backline, so it has a little bit of protection, not a ton, but it does have some. And then it stops temporaries. And what's cool with this is a copy of it will also have that ability. Copy this, have both battlefields where it is giving protection.
yeah. Mm.
Cool card. Um, then we have Kha'Zix, which weird one. Then Poppy is the last one. Kha'Zix. Did I spell that wrong? Uh,
KHA apostrophe 6.
here we go. Okay. So Kha'Zix, another XP leader. When you win a combat, you get an XP. So baked in XP generation on the leader, which is good. Yi doesn't have that. And then it is rest this to buff a unit. It is orange the buff color. Spend 2 to pull a unit back. So again, we are absolutely not trying to hold ever. This seems decent. I mean, being able to give buffs at the cost of very little. I mean, almost nothing. Or pull stuff
Yeah.
back. I mean, it reads pretty good to me.
Yeah, I mean, this is like the biggest issue, the gripe that like we didn't really identify, but like
Hmm.
the issue with a lot of the XP was like the build up cost of it was like a lot of that was like you need like 10, 11 for it to be good. And this is something that's good almost immediately. So like off of 1 or 2, you're immediately getting some kind of payback. So I think that's a positive. Like
Yeah.
this is how the XP mechanic would be quote unquote fair and balanced is like in this type of a deck.
Yeah, because you can just play good units with Kha'Zix. You aren't forced to play like
Yeah, exactly.
awful XP
Like
generated.
yeah, if I only need 2 to do it, that's like 1 or 2 combats. But if I need 7 or 8, like I need to like play guys that get 2 and prioritize getting them to win battles. Like it's just a very different game plan.
What is the name of his signature popping up?
I don't think it's revealed.
It is. It's very good.
It is.
Yes.
It is not on the website currently.
Okay. Well,
I'll look at a signature.
anyways, next champion unit. So 5/5 for 1 power. Has Hunt, and when I attack or defend, you can spend 3 XP to deal damage equal to might. Cool. I like that it's like a little toolbox that you get for holding. If you want to hold your XP, it gives you more options. This is like removal, which it's kind of cool compared to the other one, which is ambush. Ambush from the champion zone, going to be pretty good. You always have access to that. That's a constant threat. When you attack or defend, if the enemy unit is alone, you get +2 and gain 2 XPs. You don't have to actually win the combat there. Pretty big if you ask. This, I think this one is probably a little bit better, but both seem solid.
So I found the signature spell. It is called Void Strike. It was a Chinese reveal, I think, on one of their streams. So
Okay.
it's a 2 for 1 power. Move a friendly unit and then move an enemy unit. If they're both moved to a battlefield you don't control, you are the attacker. So pretty much force a combat. So like a challenge kind of, but like you have the benefit of being the assault in that situation.
Yeah, and you can actually move units. Not so you can use it like charm, or you can push back a unit, or move your unit away
like
from a
move
battlefield.
their guy back. Like it just seems
Very,
very
versatile.
very versatile. Like just very above average card.
All right, so last card we are going to look at, Poppy Leader. I might have missed one, but gone way over time for this anyway, for this segment. Anyway, so Poppy Leader, when you hold, get an XP, so another built-in gaining XP mechanic, which is good. It's very surprising to me that Yi doesn't have one. And spend 3 XP, draw a card. Hey, not bad. More expensive than Ka.
Like, relatively balanced XP mechanic.
Yeah.
So.
And then it has a decent signature. I wouldn't call this broken. It is Rebuke. Literally Rebuke, except you can hit the base, and it goes to the top or bottom of the deck. They get to choose.
Choose an enemy at a battlefield. Its owner places on top or bottom.
Oh, so, it is at a battlefield.
Yeah, so it was bad. You said be absolutely broken. Yeah. So it's still like a little balanced, but definitely I think definitely an above average signature spell.
Yeah. Yep, pretty decent. And you are effectively not only bouncing the card, but you're kind of hand ripping them. You're stopping their next draw because they're probably going to top deck it if it's a card they care about. So you kind of stop them from getting a draw next turn. So cool card. Will it be playable? I mean, Poppy is a hold based deck, so yeah, about that. The last card I did want to look at, sorry, there was one more card I wanted to look at just because it was particularly egregious to me. What was the name of
the Starcrossed?
Yeah. There it is.
So yeah, I had a few cards pulled up from set 3 that I was like, these are probably potential problem cards.
Yeah.
It was Elder Drake from Aurora, which is a 12-4, 12 energy 4 power, 10 might. Any amount of damage, any amount of your damage is enough to kill units, and then when you play me, choose up to one enemy unit at each location, deal one of them. So it's just like a board wipe.
Yeah.
This card is very very strong and not like this is like a fair card if there's not Aurora. With Aurora, I think it's a very concerning card.
Yeah, it's a card that like I can't even see myself play it without Aurora. Like it's so expensive.
Yeah, you never touch this
like
card without it.
This is what I was saying though. Like they ban Aurora, that just makes all these top end cards unplayable until they kind of fix that problem as well, which is a bit concerning to me. Yeah. But anyways, you're right.
I don't know. This card's good enough to where like you could maybe argue to me that you play it. Especially if you're like you're ramping, like let's say you're playing a Volibear deck, or like if you're playing like the Volibear, like the Dragon Tribal deck, like I think you could maybe justify that card to me in there. But yeah, like you said, Starcross is like pretty concerning. Just more purple overtuned cards.
This is a card, and they're not going to do this. I'm going to say this straight up. This is not something they would do. I would want to see this card banned before. Like this card is so unfair in so many scenarios. Being able to target the base, and the base is like the air quote safe spot. It's not, but at least against purple, it generally is, right? If I'm playing against a purple deck, they have to use their other colors. Now it's not. And the fact that there's so many, and we talked about this before with the Pike discussion, there's so many low-cost units that have such good on-play abilities that bouncing your own unit is just not a downside. And on top of all of this, it's reaction. It's like reaction speed removal is insane. There's very little of it. Like there's very little in terms of reaction speed removal. So not only do we have a reaction speed removal card that allows you to reuse your on plays, but it can also hit the enemy's base. Like, this card, I would love to see banned before it's released. It will not be. It will not be.
And then, so I'll just say one other card that I saw that I don't remember how much it was discussed, but there's a card called Existential Dread. It's an action 1-for-1 that says stun a unit, and then if it's already stunned, return to the owner's hand instead. But it also has a repeat. But it just like, why does purple have a stun? Like that was a kind of like Leona, like a yellow green, like combat centric. Like it just it doesn't understand. I don't understand why purple just has every mechanic in the game. Like I just
Yeah.
even if I have like the fundamental like paradigm shift of okay, this is not the set one game. Like we're playing a pretty combo centric game. What is the point of colors if like this color just has everything? Like purple just feels like it is like the like it is everything. There's no reason to not play purple as one of your two colors.
Yeah, and it's funny when you compare this directly to another color or another card, right? It's just a straight up better Thwonk at the cost. And it even costs less energy. It costs 1 power, but as we discussed, power costs are kind of fake right now with seals plus infinite gold, at least in purple, not in other colors. That it matters there,
But
but
purple, who cares?
in purple, this is just better than Thwonk, and green is supposed to be the holding color because you can still target 2 units. Like you don't have to repeat it on the same unit. You can repeat it on a different unit. It doesn't have to be when they're and then like you have the option of bouncing something if it's like really important. So it is a pretty crazy card to me. And come on, get off my. All right. Anyways, yeah. So we did go over what I wanted to, but that's okay. I think we had some really good discussion there. And were there any other cards that you wanted to take a look at before we
No,
call it?
I skimmed and those were the first three. They're
Okay.
all just like this is kind of the defining issue that I have with the way Riftbound is headed.
All right. Well, cool. Thank you guys for tuning in. And I know this was maybe a little bit more of a negative episode, but I'm really looking forward to the rule change that Ride's going to put out, and then hopefully the ban list as well, and see if they can maybe address some of the community's concerns. And even if they don't, I think, like Aaron said, it could just be like a mindset shift. You just look at the game differently and you play it with a different mindset. I guess we'll have to see what Riot does. Any last thoughts, Aaron?
No, I mean like I didn't get to Atlanta unfortunately. I was considering working it, but I just have too much going on in April to justify that. So like we'll see what it looks like. I'm still excited to play at events. Like I've had good times at everything I've been to, but like I said, it definitely is going to be a bit of a perspective shift if I want to continue playing this game. Like I'm going to be playing two Yu-Gi-Oh games at the same time compared
Yep.
to one slower, one quicker. So
Yep. Absolutely.
it's all no big deal. Just got to get used to it.
All right. Well, thank you guys for tuning in for the 5th episode. We will catch you next.